Hello and welcome to Carrying Comfort Studios. It is Saturday night. That means it's time for late night comfort. My name is Wes Franks. My pronouns are he, they, and I am one of your hosts for this evening. And I would like to have my other host introduce himself as well.
Hey, I'm Derek. I am the he hims. Um, Howdy.
Howdy, howdy indeed. Derek, before we get into announcements and introducing our guest tonight, how was your week, buddy?
It was cool. I got to play some of my music on some loud, stupid ass speakers.
Yes, the dream. Always the dream.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's been a dope week. Me and you both got tattoos recently.
Yep,
From
yep,
the
yep.
from the same shop. I've gotten 3 tattoos from the same shop. Yeah, I've got one. I can show this one right here. There you go. It's still healing, but yeah, there you go. But yeah, multiple tattoos, all this good stuff. We've been hanging out a lot. Excited. Been
Yeah, good times.
Oh yeah, been avoiding responsibilities with tattoos and comics. Saw that Doctor Strange movie, also known as a Marvel movie, one half, and then a Sam Raimi movie, the other half. Did you get
Yeah,
to catch that?
yeah. I saw it Thursday actually.
Ooh, Thursday, perfect. Thursday's a good movie night. I think that's when I always go to the movies. It's just a good
Yeah, we
movie
went
night.
to the drive-in.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Leeds Drive-In. If you're in the Birmingham
Yeah,
area, check out the Leeds Drive-In. It's a perfect date. Perfect date.
yeah.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so let's get down into some announcements before we get into this interview here. First up, we've got Callow Energy. Callow Energy is a game-focused, plant-based supplements company that we have partnered with and that I use in my daily life, particularly to help me sleep when my brain goes a little bit too burr. Whether it's Q Focus to help me stay focused when I'm playing games, or I'm making overlays for the latest TTRPG show we have coming out, or it is Q Energy powered energy drinks to give me a boost without the crash like most of the energy drinks on the market, Callow has you and I covered. Be sure to use the code COMFORT at checkout, and you can check out their website if you hit their graphic that's down in our About section. I'm also dropping a link right there. You get 10% off of your purchase, and we get 10% commission off of your purchase. So you help us by helping you. Next up, we have Dice Envy. If you were ever looking to grab some dice to fill your coffers, then consider using our referral link that I am going to drop in the chat right now, or hit their graphic down the About section, and you can go ahead and get a very special set of dice from Dice Envy just for you, or a gift for others. Dice Envy provides high quality, handcrafted dice at a very reasonable price, but they don't just offer dice, they also provide dice trays, dice bags, and more. Make sure to use code COMFORT at checkout as well to get 10% off of your order. And last but certainly not least, we are now sponsored by 1985 Games. You might have heard 1985 Games making the rounds. They are the creators of Dungeon Craft, an affordable way to upgrade campaigns from hand-drawn maps to stunning visual worlds. Unlike many terrain solutions on the market, Dungeon Craft is priced to allow any gamer to upgrade their campaign with over 1,000 cutout pieces without having to spend the equivalent of a dragon's hoard. Use our link in the chat that I just dropped here earlier, or in the About section, hit their graphic and check them out for new battle maps, miniatures, or their brand new product, Deck of Stories. Deck of Stories is a collectible trading card way to upgrade your games if you are a new or experienced dungeon master and you need a little bit of extra help coming up with the plot hooks or NPCs or enemies to throw into the game. They have some booster packs that have just come out. We showed them off during a lot of our different shows recently, and I've sent those out because they were one in a giveaway. But you can get different packs like their NPC packs going from Volume 1 to Volume 3, as well as their Hell pack, which fits into if you have Avernus or any other kind of plane or hell in your game, as well as gears if you have a steampunk focused game or diesel punk or any of that type of stuff going on. Those are our sponsors. Go check them out. Tell them that we sent you, and have yourself a grand old time. Derek, are you ready to be introduced to our guest?
Indeed.
All right. I would like to welcome a very special guest. You know her, you love her. We have the wonderful and effervescent Jacqueline Bryk, also known as Jax to her friends, here on the show today. Hello, how you doing? How you doing?
Hello, it's me.
Excellent.
Hi. I'm doing well now that I'm here.
Perfect. We're glad to have you. Glad that you can make it here, all the way from wherever you're at. First, before we get started off, who are you and how did you get here?
Hi. I am Jacqueline Bryk, otherwise known as Jax Romana on Twitter. I am a writer, editor, designer, and general verber of games. I have been playing tabletop games since I was 6, and I am almost 30 now, so that's quite the feat. I started LARPing when I was 17, and again, I'm almost 30, so more than half of my life has been taken up with analog games of some kind or other. Among other things, I wrote the safety rules for Vampire 5th edition. I am the English language editor for Cult Divinity Lost, and I've written on games like Changeling the Lost and Fading Suns Pax Alexius, After the War, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I also write LARPs.
You have a very extensive resume, one might say. I think there's been multiple different books or different games that I've seen online or even in other stores that you can probably crack open the cover. You can check out to see the credits there, and your name is involved. Specifically, Changeling the Lost. That is the first time that I ever met you. Was kind of involved in the Changeling the Lost circles. I'm glad that we can finally bring you on the show here.
I'm really excited to be here.
Of course. Well, we have a very important question that we start off every show with. Do you like my shirt?
I do. I do like your shirt a lot.
Okay, good. That's very important. I spent a lot of money on this. Don't tell my accountant. I spent way too much money. Wally, my cat, is my accountant.
Do you like my shirt?
Yo! Is that strawberries?
Yeah.
It's dope. Very dope. Good fit. We love good fit checks here on a Late Night Comfort. Derek, who are you wearing?
This is from Pop Killer. I got it when I was in LA last year.
Oh, sick.
They do like a bunch of shirts with a bunch of different artists. I don't remember this artist's name, but it's a black anime girl in workout gear.
Hell yeah.
Let's work it. Love it. Okay, good. I'm glad that we all understood the assignment when we showed up to the interview today.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. Derek, why don't you go ahead and kick us off here?
All right, where are you from?
So I was born and raised in Delaware, which is the state everybody forgets about. I once upon a time went to a model United Nations in Philly when I was in high school and said we were from Delaware, and someone who was raised in Philly and went to school in Philly went, "Isn't that a beach in Canada?" So yeah, nobody remembers her here, but it's my favorite state in the Union. So yeah, I am currently in Newcastle County in Delaware, and while I've traveled a whole bunch, I've lived here for most of my life.
Isn't Delaware like the first state in the Union as well?
Sure is.
Okay.
Good.
First one in, first one forgotten, I guess. Mm-hmm. That's also where old Joseph Robinette's from as well, if I do recall correctly.
Sure is.
Sure is. Old Ice Cream Grandpa.
People keep putting like "Let's Go Brandon" signs up in Delaware, and honestly, we are the people who most should be able to say "fuck Joe Biden."
Exactly right.
Like, he was our senator for over 30 years. We have every right.
Yeah.
To just say it, and people are just like, "Let's go Brandon! Look, it's a secret dog whistle." It's not a dog whistle, guys.
Oh God, it's not a dog. It's not. It's not. It was a reporter trying to cover her ass at a NASCAR race. Yeah, that's all it was, and it's the. Oh God, I think if that's my least favorite thing that has happened this year when it's come to American politics. There's a lot of bad things. I think that's probably number 4 on my least favorite things that have come out of United States politics. There's 3 other major ones that have happened, but we're not going to cover those in depth because that's not the kind of show that we're on right now. It's just a whistle. Yeah, it's not a dog whistle. It's just a whistle.
It's a foghorn.
It's a foghorn. Yeah. Now, I do want to also remind, because we do have chatters here, we have viewers here as well. If you have any questions for Jax here at any point, go ahead and use your channel points to highlight them so that we can see them. Ask them. Now, I will have you know that we meaning ourselves, the hosts and the guests, will pick from them. We might get to them, we might not. Also, the guest is allowed to just say, hey, I'm not going to answer that. So we they got the power here. Guests always have the power here. We want to make sure they're comfortable and stuff like that. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Speaking of questions, I have a very important question. What would you say set you on the path of playing and working in tabletop role-playing games?
So the first time I ever played Diablo was when I was 6 years old, like the original Diablo, because my dad wanted to play it, and we had just read The Hobbit, and he was like, "Oh, you can beat up monsters," and I'm like, "Yeah, you could beat up monsters." And then the butcher was on the second level, and I'm like, "Oh no," because at that point I did not have the refined horror taste that I have today, in which it would be like, "Oh no." But yeah, no, my dad used to tell me college stories about playing original D&D or AD&D in college, and I was like, "Oh my god, that sounds so cool." So my dad actually used to run little one-person campaigns for me when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, and I was homeschooled for most of my life, so we were part of a homeschool co-op, and one of the parts of the homeschool co-op was a D&D club that met every other week, and I joined that. And from there I just sort of branched out. I was one of those kids who's like, if it's not D&D, it's a fake tabletop game, because D&D is the only real tabletop game. But I did branch out in college, starting with, oddly enough, the Chronicles of Darkness and Exalted Second Edition. And then I realized that people can just write games, and that's a thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So it sort of grew from there.
I can feel a lot of that's a lot of kindred experiences there for me, because I was very much, especially in high school, I was playing 3.5, and I was like, oh no, it's only D&D, and I didn't realize until we were playing a pirate campaign, and then one of our buddies was like, there's a pirate game out, right? And we're like, no, and they're like, no, it's called 7th Sea. Like, it's, if you want to be pirates, you can play pirates. You don't have to like make up. Which, it's tabletop. You
Yeah.
make up stuff. But it's like, all this stuff that you're, like, spending hours writing, there's stuff that's
You don't
already
have to do that. It's already written.
It's already written. Yeah, and there's artwork that goes with it. And that really changed my experiences. And then I discovered Werewolf the Apocalypse. And that was, as a flannel-wearing, hairy person, it was eye-opening to me.
Oh my god. Recently, an acquaintance of mine referred to Rogue Trader as a failed tabletop game because it hadn't sold as much as D&D.
Oh my goodness. Is that the metric that we just have to compare everything? It's something that I always get tired of here. I mean, we've talked about it with some of our other guests, but it's like, I hate that that's like it's such an expansive hobby, and it's been an expansive hobby, and it's even like nowadays, especially with like the inclusion of itch and all these other like websites and these different areas where you can produce your work. You can just put it out there. You make the PDF, you put it out there, people can buy it, they can pay you for it. And it's like, is the metric that we're going to support as an old company's like tired old product that has been bought by other companies is being profitable? That's what we're doing. Okay, cool.
So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we're gonna go on a little ADHD train here. My college degree is actually in international relations. My specialty is actually in post-Soviet Eastern European politics, but I also studied a lot of constructivism and how communities are constructed around norms and values, and thus how systems are built. So I actually wound up writing an academic paper that is currently in edits about how the tabletop community is not actually a community, it's an ecosystem. And at the core of the ecosystem, well, not core, but like as sort of the hegemony of the ecosystem, as the sort of thing that a lot of people think everything else spins around is D&D. And I actually, for the paper, got the metrics off of Roll20 for how many people engage with D&D. Something like 50% of people on Roll20. And the next highest is actually other games or uncategorized, which is like itch games and stuff they didn't include in the report. And that's something like 20%. But I remember reading the first time I saw this report was actually in I don't remember the site. It's one of those gaming journalism sites. I will look it up at some point. Actually, hold on. I can look it up right now.
Yeah.
It was...
Assuming it's one of the usual suspects, maybe like Dicebreaker or something.
It wasn't Dicebreaker. It begins with a P. I forget.
Polygon?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It was Polygon, and it was a 2019 report talking about the 5 most popular categories of games on Roll20.
Mm-hmm.
And the top was D&D 5th edition. And then there was uncategorized, Call of Cthulhu, Pathfinder, and then I think like D&D 3.5 was the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading this article, and it said, oh yeah, D&D 3.5, obviously the biggest one because Hasbro's put so much money into it and so much time into it, because D&D, it's our hegemonic force because it has Hasbro money behind it. Like not even Chaosium has Hasbro money.
No.
And then like, oh yeah, the second place in this list is Pathfinder, which is not. Pathfinder was 4th place on the list. It's like, yeah, the gap between Pathfinder and D&D is huge. It's 2nd place, it gets all this stuff. And then it goes directly into going, yeah, 20%, because Pathfinder was something like 6%.
Yeah.
And it goes, yeah, uncategorized games are the most interesting because 20% of people come onto Roll20, and this is where all of like the movement and development and tabletop games is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's very weird to see this like this sort of cognitive dissonance of, yeah, Pathfinder is 2nd place, even though uncategorized and Call of Cthulhu were 2nd and 3rd respectively because it's a D&D clone. But also, isn't it cool about all of this other stuff?
Yeah.
And just thinking about the norms we have in this ecosystem and how D&D is its own sort of sub-ecosystem that has all of its own communities within it, because the OR report that had all of those data categorizes all 5 editions of D&D as different games.
Yeah.
So just seeing how we sort of divide ourselves but also like bond with each other, and which communities connect to which game, and how expectations vary by game and how you're going to act in what community is something that's really interesting to me. And I think reducing tabletop gaming to a single community or family, God, don't get me started on how much I hate the term tabletop RPG family. But like just the whole idea that no, we have this sort of like hundreds of thousands of communities within this hobby, and a lot of people want to reduce that to, oh, you play D&D.
Yeah.
And even saying, oh, you play D&D doesn't tell you anything about anyone's community, because there's so many different communities within the D&D set.
Yeah, it's also wild that they have each edition separated by each category. That just, man, you brought up something that's very interesting. That's something that I always like to focus on, and it's something that I hate, because it is a business ultimately. Depending on what side you're coming from it, if you're coming from the development side, it is a business. But like you said, Hasbro money. And that's the one thing that people don't really put towards D&D, because I think of it as just the hobby itself, as like tabletop, and like how it's such a niche hobby. Yeah. But they don't think Hasbro is the largest toy conglomerate in the world.
Yeah.
They have licensings for Marvel and Star Wars. They own Power Rangers and Transformers, which was the largest toy line in the world in the 80s and the early 90s.
I mean, Hasbro developed the Ouija board.
Yes.
Like...
And like every other company that's almost come close to like beating them is like, I think the closest is maybe Lego. I think
Maybe.
that's come close to it. Milton Bradley tried, and they really didn't, because all they really had was board games, and they had some other games, but like they didn't have like action figures and toys and everything. They didn't have the wide umbrella that Hasbro has. And so when you think about that, it's like, yes, you're always gonna, and that's one of the things that, like, when talking with writers and other designers, that I like to think is like, I like to talk to the people that are like, well, yeah, I'm never gonna be D&D because I'm not a company, I'm a person.
Yeah.
and
I think setting ourselves up to try and beat D&D is both a partial. Am I saying that right?
I think partial, yeah.
Yeah,
Correct us if we're wrong. Correct, get us in the comments.
It's a self-destructive goal.
Mm-hmm.
I was at MagFest a couple years ago, and there was a guy walking around with a sign that said, "Try my game, it's better than D&D." And MagFest has just opened up a tabletop section.
Mm-hmm.
And God bless this guy. He wrote a Heartbreaker, and that's awesome. Everybody should try writing a Heartbreaker at least once in their life.
Yeah.
But he had no experience with any game other than D&D, and was very surprised when several developers who were attending the con went, "Okay, how is it different?"
Yeah.
And he got a lot of good feedback.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I don't dislike D&D. Planescape is still one of my favorite settings in existence.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
there's a certain amount of, after a while, going, okay, can we do something else?
Yes, exactly. And I think it's one of those things, I can't remember who told me this. I was at PAX Unplugged, and somebody said this, because we were having this conversation. I think it was at a dinner or something. And somebody said, people need to stop trying to compare themselves or trying to beat D&D. Just let them beat themselves. Just let them,
that.
Yeah, just let them do it. It's a company. They're like,
Yeah.
you know, a company, just like people they're fallible. They are built to fail at some point by whether it be stocks or failing their consumers or some way. And it's like, just let them do it themselves. Don't worry about them. Stay in your lane. Stay moisturized, unbothered, and just keep on making your games. Yeah. What do you think about this? What do you think about this, Derek? You got any thoughts?
I'm new to all this, so you know, from what I'm hearing though, it's kind of similar to like fighting games, with like Street Fighter. How Street Fighter's like, it's the big one, it's Street Fighter, and so like, and everybody else is like, our game is like, for like tournaments and shit. You know, people like, our game isn't as big as Street Fighter, and it's like, you're not gonna be as big as Street Fighter. It got Capcom money. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's the name. When people go fighting games, it's Street Fighter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
it's literally in the title. But
right.
And I want to point out something that Von Aether here in the chat just said. The assumptions that we make in this medium, if I say I like movies, people don't assume I'm talking primarily about spy movies. If I say I listen to music, people don't assume I'm talking primarily about thrash metal. And yet if I say I play RPGs, people always assume I'm talking about medieval fantasy. And it's so wild. Like, and that's just I blame Stranger Things. I 100% blame Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, like as soon as D&D appeared in a Netflix show, this was not a niche hobby anymore.
No.
Right.
It was this is for the mass consumer. Yeah,
and that's fine.
Yeah, that's
for the record. Like, I think more people should be introduced to the hobby, and if they're introduced to the hobby through D&D, fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
It's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Man. Perfect.
There was a D&D Dexter's Lab episode.
There was.
I remember that episode. That was a really good episode.
Is that with the superhero? Was that with the superheroes or whatever? Was that, or am I thinking? I'm thinking of something.
No, because like they had a homie that was like a dungeon master, and he was a huge jerk about it.
Yeah, I am the dungeon master. You are my whatever.
Oh God, yeah. Dexter's Lab. Okay, all right. Hey Wally, can you go ahead and add rewatch Dexter's Laboratory to the agenda, please, buddy? Thank you. All right, great. He's great. Accountant and personal assistant, Wally. Perfect. All right, we have an audience question, and then I know Derek's got a bunch of questions as well here. But I want to go ahead and ask. At Critical K in the chat says, question: what TTRPG have you not played yet that you would really like to try? And is there anyone you would like to game master it or be at the table with you?
Ooh. I've read a lot of RPGs, and I've heard people say that reading RPGs and playing RPGs are different hobbies, and I am inclined to agree. But one can do both of them and do
Indeed.
both of them well. Something I think I would really like to play at some point is Red Markets, which is the anti-capitalist zombie game that was put out by Heaven Games. It has such a freaking cool world, and I think I would like it more if we weren't in the middle of an economic and social apocalypse, but maybe it would be therapeutic. I'm not sure. Gosh, what else do I really want to play? I'd love to play Invisible Sun at some point because that looks amazing.
Yeah.
I don't have the cube. I know some of my friends have the cube, but
The cube.
the cube, the big black cube.
God.
Afterlife Wandering Souls, kind of for the same reason. That one is really interesting because it's kind of like Wraith, but instead of like it being a gray washed out world, the afterlife is a bunch of like weird different like demi-planes that sort of coexist, and you move through them, and that's really cool. What else? There's After the War, which is a game I wrote for about mimetic warfare, and sort of post-war trauma, is a game that's a sci-fi game that I wrote for, which was also developed and written by Jason Pitra and Alistair Stewart. And if you recognize the name Alistair Stewart, that's because he played Peter Lucas on the Magnus Archives.
Oh, okay. Good. Dope. Excellent. Yes, I do. I know that name from somewhere.
Yep. Archon by Kiana Shaw is a game I want to play. That's a game primarily written by Asian writers, and it's a cyberpunk game. Gosh, there's a lot of itch games I want to play. Side note, the TTRPGs for Reproductive Rights Bundle is now on itch.io, and you should all go buy it because it's $5. I've started writing solo games, like solo journaling games, and I really want to play more of them. Because I really like the freedom they allow you to sort of be both a GM and a player at the same time. And I find writing them is actually really writing and developing them is also really enjoyable from like a professional standpoint.
Yeah.
So gosh, also I want to play Reign of Steel at some point.
The GURPS Reign of Steel, they're Terminator. Like you showed us that before.
Terminator, but better.
Oh gosh,
it's got 18 Skynets, and they're all fighting.
18.
They're all petty little bitches, and they're fighting each other.
As if one wasn't bad enough. Guess
what?
Oh
yeah. So I'm not sure I'd actually want to use the GURPS rule set for it.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy it is my problematic fave, I will admit, because it was written in 97 by one white guy. And it has shall we say, some outdated takes on stuff.
Yes.
But it would be easily updated at the table.
Kind of how I feel about Dark Sun with D&D, speaking of D&D, which is like cool concept, but a lot of outdated material that's in there.
Spicy choices.
Yeah, a lot of spicy choices. Definitely was 90s, 2000s era type of thinking right there. Oh, perfect. All right, hit us with a question, Derek.
All right, so since we talked about all that TTRPG stuff, I'm new to TTRPGs.
Okay.
Right? So what systems would you recommend for me? Like, so my interests are like cyberpunk shit, cosmic horror shit. I'm gonna throw Jet Set Radio out there just in case it's something out there for me. But yeah, like stylish as sci-fi fucked up shit. You know?
Okay. So the first game I'd actually recommend for you is called Cthulhu Dark. It is a very, very short system that only uses 2 dice.
Mhm.
And it is primarily an investigative system. It is not like Call of Cthulhu from Chaosium where you can like shoot a horror to death. But it's more about investigating and trying to get away.
Mhm.
And it's very well done. It's by my friend Graham Walmsley. The second one I would actually recommend is Lovecraft-esque by Black Armada Games. And I've referred to this as sort of a Call of Cthulhu walking simulator because it's not actually a game about running or hiding or fighting. It's a game about experiencing cosmic horror as a normal person. And it's actually sort of structured as the storyline is called a descent. So it's actually like structured so every scene, the GM and the player actually switch. So like you're telling this very collaborative story about one protagonist's descent into darkness. And they're very specifically like, look, we don't want this to be a game where you're just, and now you're meeting Cthulhu. Like, you can use named Cthulhu monsters and characters if you want, but it's really more of a game about creating the sort of horror you want to see at your own table. The next game I would actually recommend is either Fading Suns or Fading Suns Pax Alexius. It is a far future not horror, I'm sorry. It is a far future sci-fi game. It's like if you took Dune, and then you take Byzantine history, you take a little bit of Star Wars, you smash it all up together, and you get a sci-fi game about a feudal interplanetary society with jump gates. Oh, it's got a little bit of Mass Effect in there too.
Okay.
But a feudal society with jump gates where the stars are slowly going out and demonic things are coming from the darkness between the stars. But also, like, you have to pay a tithe to your lord and you have to rule your planet, and sometimes you have to get into duels. So that's a cool one. Cyberpunk, again, I would suggest Archon by Kiana Shaw. That's a really cool take on the cyberpunk genre. It's a little less Shadowrun than normal, but it's just a really good system. I like it a lot. Gosh, what else? I love recommending games. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I see you got a nice wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
This is like one of the smartest people I've ever met.
God, if I'm one of the smartest people you've ever met, you need to meet more people.
Look, I work with what I got, all right?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. What else? It's a good chunky sci-fi game.
There's one that I've always wanted to try because I like Traveler. That's very chonky. But I've always wanted to try Stars Without Number.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good one.
That is
Stars Without. I haven't played Stars Without Number, but I've heard a lot of really good things about it. Yeah.
I'm like, as you're listing all of these off, I'm grabbing them and I'm dropping them in the chat just in case.
I mean, I always recommend Dread for new players too, because the system for Dread is a straight horror game and it can be used to tell any number of horror stories. But the system for Dread is literally everyone takes a personality test designed by the GM as your character sheet, because everybody loves a personality test. And then instead of rolling dice to resolve any conflict, you pull a block from a Jenga tower.
Interesting.
And if the Jenga tower falls, your character dies or is put out of commission in some way, but you get to decide how that happens.
Ooh.
Back in the Gap, I used to run an annual Halloween. Before I would go to New Orleans, I would run an annual Halloween Dread game with my friends here in town. And then I stopped hanging out with that group of people because they're very toxic people. But I've always... we should do that. We should do that this year. I should definitely get you in on Dread. It's very fun. I've got the Jenga tower right there.
Okay.
Yeah, Dread is Critical K. Dread is the scariest game ever, hands down.
I would say 10 Candles is the scariest game ever.
Oh yeah.
But Dread is a great sort of starting point for, let's get into some weird mechanics that aren't dice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Oh, if you want to try a solo game, there is the Wretched, which is a game very strongly based on the Alien movie, where you are in a wrecked ship and you're trying to fix it, and there is a creature there that is hunting you, and you're essentially doing a series of tasks every day on the ship, and the game either ends when you run out of food or oxygen, the creature gets you, or you're rescued. And there is like a less than 1% chance of you actually getting rescued because of how the game is set up.
Yeah.
But the game is about like building that tension and existing in that space, and it's very cool and interesting.
That was written by Chris Bissett, right?
It was, yes.
Yeah, Chris Bissett. Shout out Chris. Huge
Hell yeah.
into hardcore and metal music, but also really good at writing games too.
So, side note, I am actually writing a game using the Wretched and Alone SRD, but it's based on Steven Universe.
Amazing.
Specifically, Steven Universe Future. Yeah. But because the end of Steven Universe Future really got me as like a trauma survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just like, okay, I've spent my entire life learning how to be this thing. Now I just need to take some time to learn how to be human. And like, he goes off on his little road trip. And the game I'm writing, that Ian is doing some graphic design for, Ian is in the chat as Von Aether. Hello, Ian. But it's based on the Wretched and Alone system, so there is a less than 1% chance that your road trip will cure you. But it's a series of things you experience on your road trip and like how they change you. And a rule I'm adding in is that you can retry the road trip as many times as you want. Because the idea is like, yeah, one road trip is not going to cure a lifetime of trauma, but maybe it will set you up.
Yeah.
For
start the path.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I dig that.
I'm very much into that. Excellent. Yeah, just also wanted to shout out before we move on to the next question. At Jarl the Appium Way said, "Hi, Jax. You know I have the cube, yes?" Talking about Invisible Sun.
Jason is my other partner who's currently in chat. And yes, I know he has the cube, and at some point we will run it.
Perfect. I checked to see if the cube was in stock, and the cube is not in stock, and I forgot that they
read No, the cube is never in stock.
Yeah, and the PDF is $99.
It is a huge PDF.
That's what I've heard, is that there's a lot that goes into it. Very much like esoteric, like if you like magic, and we're talking about magic, we're not talking about magic, we're talking about magic. If you like magic, then
if Mage the Ascension wasn't weird and esoteric enough for you,
guess what?
There is Invisible Sun.
There is Invisible Sun. I want to shout out before we move on as well. Friends Who Roll Dice here on Twitch had an excellent Invisible Sun game that you should go check out on their Twitch and YouTube. They did a great job. My close friend April Raygun was in that show. It was really good.
Oh, before we go on, you said something about hot sauce?
Yes, so I do have to remind. So you might see something above Jax's head there, where it says there's a tip menu. We have done away with the ask a question for $2, because I feel like y'all should just be able to use your channel points for that. But we do have Wes does a hot sauce shot with medium heat, which I've got right here for $5. Wes does a hot sauce shot where it's hot with right here, $10, and then for $20. I've got extra hot. I've got Effie's Wrath right here. Gay wrestler Effie made some very hot, very spicy, very tasty hot sauce. I will do a shot of hot sauce for that tip menu. But apparently, Jax here has a surprise for everybody else as well.
I, too, will do a shot of hot sauce. I have the Old Bay, the official Old Bay hot sauce for, light, breezy sort of hot sauce.
Mm-hmm.
My medium hot sauce is Winter Angel by Voodoo Chili.
Amazing.
Really nice, sort of fruity orange peel habanero hot sauce. And then I have a straight honey habanero hot sauce for my hot sauce.
Amazing. I love that bottle design too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a cool bottle.
So hearing that, folks, we do have a tip menu here. If you go ahead and hit !tip, as you can see, that's right below my face that just passed by. It'll bring up our Pally link. Shout out Pally, who's been handling all of our tips for our different TTRPG shows and our channel at large here. But you can go ahead and we will do a hot sauce shot live on stream while we're giving this interview. And we got to keep on going. You know, we got to act like everything's fine. It's very fun. This game, this show is fun. So, speaking of fun, what makes the Terminator series so compelling?
It's a love story.
Okay. Let's get into it. It's a love story.
Okay, so the original Terminator was a love story between Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. James Cameron also directed the first one, didn't he?
Yes, wrote and directed this
Yeah.
car.
Showing my, fake nerd girl. But, yeah, no, something that really shocked James Cameron is that women came to see the Terminator in droves because, yeah, we want to see big scary robot, but we also want to see the human emotions behind that. And the most interesting thing about the first Terminator is not where did the big scary robot come from? Although I will admit the future war scenes are some of my favorite scenes ever shot. They are phenomenal. The aesthetic is perfect. But the thing about Terminator is it is a man. It is Kyle looking at Sarah saying, "I came through time for you, Sarah." That is the heart of the movie. And Sarah survives because of his. Kyle Reese gets fridged. Your big combat action hero who literally picks up a set of Nike shoes, which were probably the most comfortable shoes he's ever worn in his life. Like, that man probably has calluses the thickness of fucking leather on his feet, and he
like
gets
a line
those.
cook.
Oh yeah, and he gets those Nikes, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is the best." And like his Vietnam raincoat, and like in a movie like this, you would expect Sarah to die. Sarah is the one who survives. Kyle sacrifices himself in sort of a reverse fridging moment so that Sarah can have the "you're terminated" fucker.
Yep.
Which carries into the second movie, which is a familial love story instead of a parental love story, because the point of that movie is what happens when the military-industrial complex and the medical-industrial complex turn you into something less than human, because it's all about Sarah's trauma and how that causes her to just react to the world instead of being able to be present in it. John Connor is a MacGuffin, which is the greatest decision made for John Connor. I fucking hate Christian Bale as John Connor. It is one of my least favorite casting choices.
Yeah.
But tiny John Connor being a little kid hacker who is a MacGuffin, who is transported from place to place by the Terminator, and also by Sarah Connor, who is wearing Kyle Reese's jacket through most of that film. And there is a cut scene, if you watch the director's cut, where he comes and he gives her the strength to get out of the mental asylum. It's phenomenal and heartbreaking. And like the person who stops Sarah from murdering the guy who invented Cyberdyne is the Terminator.
Yep.
Because the point of John Connor, and to a lesser extent Kyle Reese, the point of those two characters is that they are the emotional heart of those movies, a role usually filled by someone who would be Sarah Connor. But Sarah Connor is the protagonist, with John Connor and Kyle Reese being the secondary, almost feminine role, or role that is usually fulfilled by a woman.
Yeah. And
that's so fucking incredible. Also, Terminator 2 said ACAB really hard. I don't know if you guys noticed. The bar that the Terminator, that Arnie's Terminator gets his clothes at, is actually a bar that's on the same block that Rodney King was assaulted on.
Oh.
That was a deliberate choice by James Cameron, and turning Robert Patrick's character into a cop was also a deliberate choice, because the whole point of Skynet, can I swear on? I can swear on.
Yeah,
this
you
show.
can swear. It's late night comfort. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole fucking point of the Terminator is the military-industrial complex will eat literally everything in its way in order to eat itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like, Terminator says ACAB real hard, and oh my god, the first time I watched Terminator 2 was like 3 weeks after the George Floyd shooting, and watching the Cyberdyne inventor get shot by a bunch of cops
Mm-hmm.
was really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like, the fact that his family only shows up in one episode of the Sarah Connor Chronicles
Mm-hmm.
was not enough for me.
Yeah. Agreed.
No, they need more. Like, something I would have loved to see, and maybe I'll write a fan fiction about it someday, who knows, is Sarah, now that she's, free of all this, going back to that family, because, that family lost their husband. She and John have lost almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great, like, hey, we're all fucking traumatized, let's go be friends.
Yeah.
Whoop, sorry.
That's you touched on something with the Terminator series. The Terminator 2 is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I think it is the perfect movie. Pacing wise, script, acting, action, everything, visual effects. It's what we had a big old discussion, like a debate about James Cameron, because I called James Cameron. There's a certain point like past Terminator 2 where he stopped being a filmmaker and became a film scientist, because he got production money just so he could pursue his science experiments, going down to the bottom of the ocean and everything, and like pushing technology.
Oh my god, okay, fucking Abyss has Michael Biehn as a mustachioed villain, and it's the weirdest thing ever.
So Michael Biehn with a mustache is weird. Michael Biehn with a beard is okay. Michael Biehn with a mustache is not okay. It's not good.
No.
But
I want to point out that 2 of my partners are in the chat right now. One of those like Terminator series. Yep, all 2 of them. And Ian responded with, objection, Sergeant Candy is canon. Do you know who Sergeant Candy is?
Take it away. Explain it. Go ahead and explain it for the audience.
So Terminator 3, which is an okay movie.
It's all right.
It's not terrible, but it's not really what I wanted.
It misses a lot of the point of the first of like the series.
Yes, it misses a lot of the point, and it sacrifices a lot of the point for quips.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the nuke scene at the end is actually a reference to several very famous nuclear films, which I appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of seeing Skynet as software instead of a hardware core was really cool. But there is a deleted scene that talks about the person who the Terminator 600 and later the 800 was modeled off of, and it's literally Arnie going, "Hi there, I'm Sergeant Candy," and like doing this whole ridiculous fucking accent. And at the end of because he's doing the intro video to the Terminator like series of robots, and at the end, they're watching. It's a bunch of generals looking on, and they're like, "Yeah, no, that accent's awful." And Arnie, as a different contractor, turns and goes, "Yes."
Amazing.
I hadn't
that's
seen that movie in years.
And like, there's like he's like holding a Terminator head.
Mm-hmm.
Goes, that's me.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, amazing.
So good.
That's I do want to get your opinion on something that involves the Terminator universe, but I also want to touch on something because the rest of the because Critical K brought up just like, oh, I guess I need to watch that movie. You should definitely watch Terminator 1, Terminator 2, watch Terminator 3, even watch Terminator Salvation, even though that completely misses the point of the entire series.
Watch all of them so you can have the entire
Genesis,
context.
Dark Fate. All of them. Even Genesis, the worst one in
Like,
this whole series.
you should experience the death of a franchise.
Live action.
Okay, people say Dark Fate is good, and then I looked at the plot synopsis, and it's like, John dies in the first 10 minutes, and then Sarah goes right back to drinking and being a hard ass, and I'm like, no!
Yeah.
No!
It's an alternate timeline.
Let her fucking heal!
Yeah, it's
My God!
it was an excuse to bring back badass Sarah Connor. They wanted to have Sarah Connor with a fucking, cut off tank top and
I mean, she's so hot.
She's really
Linda
hot.
Hamilton
Linda
is really hot.
Yeah, Pumpkinhead. Shout out Linda Hamilton. Children of the Corn.
Yeah, that's right.
Shout out.
Fucking Pumpkinhead. That was my shit.
So Salvation does have 3 things going for it.
Mm-hmm.
One, it goes real deep into the Holocaust imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kyle has a series of numbers on his forearm, like a barcode in the first movie, and that never really gets touched on again.
Yeah.
But they deliberately lean into Holocaust imagery because the whole point of the Terminator series is supposed to be like overwhelming fascism in the military-industrial complex.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is the sort of the hilarious queer baiting between Marcus the Cyborg and John Connor. Because Marcus literally gives John Connor his heart at the end of the movie. Like, these men are so in love, and they're like, oh yes, there are hot women around that they are totally paying attention to. No, I have never seen Christian Bale have chemistry with anyone.
Yeah.
These men, they are so in love. And it's very much a star-crossed lovers story because John Connor's like, you are a cyborg and therefore you are terrible and how could you? And Marcus is like, I trusted you, how could you think that I wouldn't be trustworthy? And the third thing, actually there's 4 things, sorry. The third thing is the existing military-industrial complex carrying the idiot ball the whole time, which I don't think that was a deliberate choice the way Robert Patrick's Terminator being a cop was, but it really unintentionally gets part of the Terminator series, because for some fucking reason they decided, oh yeah, John Connor, who was raised by this insurrectionist mother, absolutely went into the military and is totally an officer in the military.
Totally.
And let's the leaders of the world's military who are in this invisible submarine boss him around.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that whole subplot about the signal that Skynet put out that's like, yeah, it'll disable Skynet engines, and they test it, and obviously it disables a Skynet drone because Skynet put out the fucking code in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then the military leaders are like, great, we're gonna broadcast it all over the world from our submarine, which up until now has successfully hidden from Skynet. And then they broadcast the signal, and Skynet's like, nuke.
Yep, there it is. There it is.
Goodbye.
We found you. Thank you. You just did our job for us.
And they're like, okay, that's fucking hilarious.
Right.
The other one is, of course, Helena Bonham Carter as Skynet.
Yeah.
That was an excellent choice.
Yeah. She got the voice for it. Definitely got the voice for it. Yeah. I put in the chat here where you can watch the entire series. So you got the Terminator is on Prime Video. Terminator 2 and Terminator 3 are both on HBO Max. Terminator 3 is also on Netflix. Terminator Dark Fate, you have to rent on Prime because it's a recent movie. Terminator Genesis, if you want to watch that, because it is wild. Terminator Genesis is wild and has nothing to do with the overall series whatsoever. It was supposed to be a reboot, and it failed. And so they canned that timeline. But that's on Paramount Plus, so if you don't have Paramount Plus, don't worry about it. Terminator Salvation is on Netflix and HBO Max as well, and then the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the TV series, is on Hulu. The Sarah Connor Chronicles does a lot really well, in my opinion, but it also has some failings in it. But I do enjoy Lena Headey as Sarah Connor. Definitely not Linda Hamilton, but she does.
It's very weird for me watching Lena Headey be Sarah Connor because my first introduction to her was as Circe, and like she is such a phenomenal Circe, even though that show was such garbage.
Man,
That, like I can't. It's very hard for me to see her as anything else.
Yeah, I get it. I still see her as Mama from
exactly
Dread.
from Dread.
From
Yeah.
Dread.
Nice.
Mama from Dread. Oh yeah, perfect. So before we move on to any more questions, I know Derek's got a bunch of questions. I got a bunch of questions. We've got a lot of. I wrote a lot of questions for this. I got to know your opinion on the upcoming Terminator RPG that's coming out because I saw that phase shift right there because. Me as well as a lot of other people, and I know I saw you were very excited when they announced that they were coming out with this RPG, but you are, and you're not NDA compliant or anything with this. You're not breaking an NDA, so you can talk all about this. And you got your hands on a copy of it. You got to read it, and I know you did a Twitter thread about it, but I want you to talk about your thoughts on this Terminator RPG.
So you know that scene in Terminator 2 where Robert Patrick, like, they think they've destroyed him and he like reforms with the fire behind him and just goes,
Mm-hmm.
That's about my opinion on that game.
Mm.
Like, there have been several games of licensed properties that are coming out now that really miss the mark. Blade Runner, the Blade Runner RPG, for example, you play a cop. That is the core.
Yep.
The Terminator RPG, within the first 7 pages, it's like, oh yeah, there's human warlords that are like set up. They're wacky, and you have to pay them tribute because you know what this franchise needed was more Mad Max. Clearly. Also, did you know that the Spetsnaz, as in the Russian Special Forces unit, are the most equipped to handle Terminators because they have futuristic weapons that can take out Terminators in one shot for some fucking reason. The game actually does have art of the main characters from the first movie, and it's actually really nice art of them. The art of the hunter killers is really cool. The game does have some really nice art. The layout is questionable because the way the font works is like the A is tilt because like the A tilts in like the Terminator font.
Yeah.
But their A tilts are not consistent. So like you'll see A's like tilting like this in a word if a word has more than like one A, so it'll kind of be like this. And sometimes if a word starts with an A, the A will be at a like full 45-degree angle the other way, so it looks like it's falling off the page. There are a lot of things I could talk about, but the three things that really sort of encapsulate the game for me are the fact that, number one, the game, in a series which had a little side plot to do with hacking because John Connor hacked an ATM with a Game Boy, has 17 pages dedicated to hacking where you are expected to essentially create your own board game on graph paper in order to hack a system. Also, how many turns do you think it takes to hack a nuclear silo? It doesn't say if you're within distance of the nuclear silo, just how many turns in general do you think it takes?
I'm going to be very lenient. I'm going to say at least 4.
More.
8?
More.
Man.
12?
More.
Chill out.
More? No!
That's a game in and of itself.
That's
33.
30. What? You mean I could be right there at the control booth?
It took 33 turns. But don't worry, because there are thrown nuclear weapons in this game. Thrown tactical nuclear weapons.
Like handheld.
Like on some Fallout shit? Like the,
yeah.
with the super
The
super
mini
with
yeah, the super. Oh no.
And if you know me and know anything about me, you know this hits my anger button faster than most other things. Because one of my special interests is nuclear media.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got the hacking. The second thing is the 10-page error. And I call it the 10-page error because it starts on page 106 and ends on and really comes to its culmination on page 116. So you're familiar with the TV term of a brick joke?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so for those in your audience who might not know what a brick joke is, it has nothing to do with me, Jacqueline Bryk, but but it's like when somebody the brick joke is when somebody throws something sort of the brick joke. The reason it's called a brick joke is because somebody throws a brick in the air and then later in the play or the series or whatever, the brick comes down and hits someone in the head at a very comedically appropriate time.
Yes.
It's kind of like a Chekhov's gun except for comedy. There is an unintentional brick joke in this game because on page 106, this is the entirety of the economy write-up, by the way, is this brick joke. Page 106, it's like, yes, we have no time for capitalism under Skynet because we have to conserve all of our resources and blah, 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 blah. And, people are forced to share their resources, and it doesn't really quite get the whole anti-capitalist thing, but that's fine. Because on page 116, it's the title of the thing is Capital, and it says in eras, because it's allegedly a time traveling game, even though it doesn't really have time traveling rules. In eras where people still have an economic system, cash is king. Here is how you use cash to get the thing you want. And I'm like, what the fuck? Pages from each other.
Oh no.
It's oh my god.
That sounds hilariously delicious.
And the final thing is I'm sorry, there's four things. This is like a fucking Monty Python sketch. Fear, surprise, nice red uniforms, etc., etc. They, of course, describe Kyle Reese as reserved and stoic and never showing his emotions unless it's to someone he cares about. The game, and finally, this game loves cops.
I'm seeing that.
Because in the list of NPCs you can meet in different eras, the first one is Officers of the Law, immediately followed by the Undesirables. Oh, and then, of course, one of its sample scenarios is you play one of Lieutenant Traxler's cops as they try to stop the Terminator from getting to Sarah.
Oh my god.
That's funny.
So I'm on the Kickstarter page right now. Because it was Kickstarter. It's by Nightfall Games. And I'm looking at the stretch goals that they hit. And they didn't hit all their stretch goals. Like, they're not going to make a form-fillable character sheet. You know what? If you want to, you can hire me and I'll make it for you. I do it for games all the time that don't, because they don't have time to make a form-fillable character sheet. It takes a lot of time. So, hit me up or roll 20 character sheet. But, like, a lot of the Kickstarters that they have in here is, like, we'll give you a new type of enemy, the mole. And it's all stuff from the comics. It's like, it's a bunch of stuff from the comics. But they're like, we'll also make a new NPC. J. Bear Connor. John Connor, the man he was destined to be. Which is like, shouldn't you have that as an NPC anyways in the game? That's
the dude.
That's the dude. It's like
that's
the guy. That's John Connor. And they're like, we can make Sarah Connor playable if we hit 42,500. And it's like,
I could just do that.
Yeah.
We can make Kyle Reese playable at 33,000.
I could just do that.
I will build a strapping young Kyle Reese in your system if I have to. Don't think I won't.
Oh goodness. A lot of the art I do dig, but a lot of it also looks very edgy. This screams like mid 2000s. Like,
did you see the fucking Kickstarter picture where it's literally the cigar chomping general pointing at something while his guys are like, but what do we do?
Yeah, I did. And then all the, I guess, Terminators, they're all lined up wearing the same shirt.
Yeah.
Wearing the same red shirt. Yeah, cigar chomping general, and everybody looks confused.
Yeah,
Way
that's
my
definitely the
patch.
Terminator game I want to play.
Definitely.
Anyway, I'm considering writing a solo game based on that scene where the other T-800 shows up. The only T-800 in the series, by the way, who is not played by Arnie, was his weightlifting buddy,
Yeah.
and it's in the Future War scene where Kyle's in the tunnels, and we see him with the picture of Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
And he literally fucking, as soon as the Terminator shows up, puts the Polaroid of Sarah in his teeth and then just goes after the Terminator. I'm like, that is the hottest shit I have ever.
But yes, he's so stoic.
He's so stoic.
Amazing. All right. So what you know what? If it doesn't get the stamp of approval by Jax, then I'm probably not gonna play it.
I mean, I've already backed the Kickstarter, and I did threaten to take away my money if they kept the Warlords, and I got no response, and I looks like I'm still a backer of the Kickstarter. So, I will be getting a hard copy. And if you want to have me back so we could do a late night reading of the Terminator RPG,
we'll do a full review, a full comprehensive review of it. Oh man, yeah, we gotta do that. Yeah, definitely have to.
I'm also gonna do a read along on my Twitter at some point. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I occasionally do read alongs of RPG books where I'll just like read through and tweet about nonsense I see in them, and it's really fun.
It's great. It's dope. Good Twitter follower. Good Twitter follow. Derek, go ahead and save us from the nightmare that is the Terminator RPG, and hit us with another question, please.
Yes, please do.
All right, so LARP.
Yeah.
What is it, and why fuck with it? Also, have you done Terminator LARP?
Good question. I haven't done a Terminator LARP yet. I'm actually looking for a way to make that work. We'll see. So LARP is essentially just TTRPGs with somatic components. Somatic just means moving your body.
Okay.
Like I don't know how to explain it better than that because there are as many different types of LARPs as there are TTRPGs. A lot of people are very familiar with that stupid fucking lightning bolt video. That's a type of LARP referred to as boffer or a full contact LARP. There are LARPs where you do sword fight. There are LARPs where you resolve conflict through rock, paper, scissors. Hello, vampire LARP. There are LARPs that don't even focus on combat. There are LARPs that focus on courtly intrigue and assassinations. There are sci-fi LARPs, cyberpunk LARPs. There are like super high budget LARPs like Project Ascension, which is going to be a LARP that uses the city of New York as essentially its playing field, which is run by Sinking Ship Productions, which is hosted by my friend Ryan. And I am editing all the character sheets for that, which is why I bring it up. There are LARPs that can be played in 1 or 2 hours in a room of your house. Like I said, there are many, many different kinds of LARPs. I really like writing and running chamber LARPs, which are LARPs that run between like 3 to 5 hours, can be played in a convention, usually have a pretty specific theme or story that they're trying to tell. I really enjoy doing weird stuff with that. But I also really like running event LARPs. I actually have an LLC now for running weekend one event games. I will actually be running an online LARP this November, which is kind of a fun new experimentation with the medium, because a lot of people say, oh, well, if you're playing online, then is it really a LARP? To which I say, fuck you, it is. Because if it's live and there's action and you're role playing, it's LARP. The one I will be running this November is called Project Sparrow. It is a semi-canon LARP set in the world of the podcast The Silt Verses, which you should listen to if you're into cosmic horror. It's actually sort of a folk horror about a world where gods are hungry for both worship and sacrifices and are very strongly integrated into the capitalist structure of the society they're in. So, like, for example, by having a radio with the prayer mark of the Saint Electric on it, you can get radio reception. But if that prayer mark gets damaged, you're going to have to get it repaired. Maybe you're going to have to spill some blood in order for your radio to keep working.
That's tight.
It's very good. I think Wes is in the group for Project Sparrow.
I got added into it. I'm going to be looking over it here once I
Hell
finally
yeah.
get some time because it really
Jason,
piqued my interest.
Yeah, Jason, who is in the chat, is one of my GMs for that. Marcy, who I believe is also still in the chat, is a friend of mine who I just got into the Salt Verses, and I'm hoping will come play. They are also a first-time LARPer, so don't let that scare you away. The way we're sort of making it into a LARP instead of a forum RP is so there are a lot of religious wars in this world, as you might imagine. And their equivalent of World War II is called the Imago War. Imago being like an idealized form of perfection, essentially. And there is a line in episode 12 of the Silt Verses, spoken by one of the characters, which is, propaganda gods were dropped on entire cities. And I went, what? They did what? And the Silt Versus crew, who are wonderful, have been writing their sort of like a lore book for their setting called A Book of Gods and Territories. And the most recent one was a deep dive into propaganda gods. And they are essentially infectious memes that either turn people to your side or kill them slowly and horribly. So this LARP is about researching, creating, and deploying propaganda gods during the Imago War. So it is a weekend of sort of doing that, but because propaganda gods are so contagious, everybody is locked into their own little space in this remote base in these cloisters. So the only way you can contact people on the project is by this really flimsy intranet, which we're going to be representing with a Discord server with a bunch of like bots and stuff. And support saints, which are your GMs that are saints of an unknown god that allows you to be connected to each other.
Oh my god. That's sick. That's sick. That's sick.
Yeah.
That's also very cool for me as somebody, like, I'm not big into like play-by-post, but like when it's like when it's just like standard role-playing play-by-post, but like this where it's like it's a LARP, but you're doing the communications and everything, and you're contacting people and all that stuff like that. That's very cool to me. I like the hands-on, like full immersion, like kind of stuff like that. It's very, very dope. It's very dope.
Do you mind if I post the link in the chat? Is that
Please do. Please do. I hope you should be able to.
Hold on. I'm not logged in.
Perfect.
I'm just going to send it to you, Wes.
Yeah, go ahead and just send it to me, and I'll go ahead and drop it. Because I went ahead and I dropped Ruffled Feathers, LLC.
There you go.
As well. Perfect.
Oh, we got it. We got to stretch. Derek has it going on.
Yeah, perfect. Get all that big stretch. Yeah, there we go. Drop the link right there for that. Oh my goodness. Amazing. Perfect. Ooh. Yeah, there we go. Let me officially join that as well. I'm in. I'm in. Hacker voice, I'm in.
Hell yeah. No, you can't be in for another 32 turns.
That's, oh god. You can't be in for you gotta wait 32 turns. That's the whole game. That's a whole game session.
It really is.
Oh my god, that's a nightmare. Oh god,
Maybe I'll just put that as a rule in Project Sparrow. We don't even have turns in Project Sparrow, but maybe I'll just be like, you have to take 33 turns to launch a nuke.
Oh, that's crazy.
I don't know. Make it up.
Amazing.
Because that shit where we killed those cops in fucking Lancer.
Oh, our Lancer series. Check out Mezzanine Alpha. It's very anti-cop.
And you were like, yeah, it was like 6 turns. Y'all got to make something happen.
You got to make something. Yeah, I was like 6 turns.
And that was a long time.
And 6 turns was like 2 hours in the game. I was like, 6 turns, you got to make it happen. In 6 turns, a lot can happen in Lancer. I can't imagine 33 turns. Oh my god. Save us from 33 turns here. At Critical K has a question. As someone who doesn't know LARPs, can you explain can you explain the differences between as someone who doesn't know LARPs, can you,
LARP,
the different. I know you. I've seen your tweets on Nordic LARPs. I know this is a doozy.
Yes, Nordic LARP is a marketing term. It originates from the Scandinavian convention Knutpunkt, which is a big LARP theory and LARPing conference, and sort of the codified ideas of Nordic LARP from Knutpunkt are essentially, it's a very emotional game. It has little to no crunch. It tells preferably an intimate story. And you know, it is a game centered around human emotion, basically. Nordic LARP has stopped meaning that.
Yeah.
What essentially Nordic LARP means in popular discourse at this point is this game is going to try and make you feel things.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a lot of touch. There's not going to be a lot of combat. Saying that is all of Nordic LARP is like saying all of American LARP is, I don't know, Project Ascension, which is a LARP I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
There are huge boffer events in Sweden and Norway and Finland. There are like they have small games too, and like there's a lot being done in the art form. A chamber game is once again a game that can be played in a couple of hours in one or two rooms. That's a pretty easy one. But I've noticed a lot of times that people, especially American designers, and there's a lot of American designers, but there's this weird dichotomy that we've set up between American, which is sort of like in popular parlance, American LARP is like boffer medieval fantasy, and it's basically what people think D&D is.
Yeah.
Versus Nordic LARP, which is deep and emotional and encourages you to sort of explore different states of being, and like, no?
Yeah.
Those are not the only two styles of LARP. And it's really reductionist, actually. And like, I've been in some real fucking toxic games that called themselves Nordic LARPs that were just essentially people trying to feel good about themselves being nice white liberals, essentially. And like, I hate the term Nordic LARP. A lot of people call me a Nordic designer, and that's partially why I hate it, because I have no Scandinavian blood in me at all. I've never been to the Scandinavian countries. I've never been to Knutpunkt.
Yeah.
And like, people are like, oh, but your games are so emotional. Yeah, that's because I'm an emotional designer. Like, I prefer terms like emergent are fine. I find that emergent is starting to become sort of the new Nordic LARP. Emergent basically meaning, oh, we're not going to write a big overarching plot for this weekend. You guys are going to make up your own plot and see what comes out of it, which is a fine play style. But a lot of times people, again, it's been sort of expanded to mean like, oh, well, you get to play something that isn't railroading. And like, And like, I am all for the queering of LARP language, because something I really enjoy about LARP is that it allows, honestly, the biggest thing I enjoy about LARP and TTRPGs is that they allow you to play high consequence emotions in low consequence spaces.
Yeah.
And that's really important to me. And I like being able to move through different forms and styles of LARP, and I get very frustrated when people just want to reduce things to Nordic or American, because even in the US, we have so many different styles of LARP.
Yeah. I was looking up because I really wanted to compare the numbers here of like different, because you said like people are starting to put boffer LARPs with American, like American is just boffer LARPs and stuff, and it's like the largest the largest boffer LARPing or like event is in Germany, is what I'm seeing right now. It's
Dragonfest.
Conquest.
Yeah.
Dragonfest. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's and that's like, and I'm comparing that to all the attendance that you typically see with the boffer LARPs in United States.
Yeah, like boffer LARPs in the U.S. can be anywhere from 30 to 200 people.
Yeah, because I'm seeing like Dagor here and like all that stuff that I'm talking about. As I'm digging into it, all this stuff like that, and I'm like, and it's like they've got like 200 attendants.
Dagor here, the sexual predator's paradise.
Boom. Yep.
I know, because I was part of it for years.
Oof.
That's wild.
It's wild. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Save me from sexual predators. Ask me another question.
Perfect. What's the world's most terrifying animal?
This is a good question. I like this question.
Did you really save us from sexual predators, right?
The botfly.
The botfly. Oh, that's a good choice.
They're grody, and I hate them.
They're very grody. What about you, Derek? What do you think is the world's most terrifying animal?
For the cliche, we're going with humans.
You go with humans? Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was gonna say octopi.
I love them.
I love them a lot too, but they also terrify me. Seeing the videos of them getting out of like fish tanks and stuff is like, I'm like, ooh. Ooh.
It's more inspiring than scary for me.
Okay, yeah, well, that's
There's uplifted octopus. Oh, I forgot to recommend Eclipse Phase. Oh my god, Derek, you would love Eclipse Phase.
Oh, Eclipse Phase. Yes, you totally would. Oh yeah.
It's a weird transhumanist sci-fi horror thing. Also, there's uplifted animals that you can play.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there was a Skynet war.
The book is large, and there's a lot.
But you can get all of them for free.
You can get all of them for free though, which is dope. Mm-hmm. It's really cool that they offer that. Like they
released it under the Creative Commons license because all of the Eclipse Phase developers are anarchists.
Yep, it's fucking sick. It's right up your alley. Definitely.
It's really good.
I've been wanting to do Eclipse Phase on the channel for a long time. We are going to start steamrolling through these.
Let's do it.
If we get a few ranty ones, I'm still fine with it. You know, if we get a big episode out of this, it's okay. It happens.
I always get big episodes. Like you saw my deep dive on Changeling with Nick, right?
I did. Yeah, I did. That was great. Go check out Ginhead Gaming's deep dive series, which I hope Nick brings back.
Me too, because we were talking about doing one on Deviant and one on Cult, and I'm really hoping to get into those.
Big same. All right, Derek, go ahead and hit us with one.
Guess what? What drew you to Changeling the Lost?
Changeling the Lost saved my life. So once upon a time, I was a homeschool child who decided to go to public school for high school, and that was a huge shift for me. And I don't like to think about my high school years a lot. Let's just say that I developed most of my personhood in college. But I had a terrible roommate in my first semester of college, and a lot of my time, instead of chilling out in my room, I would wander down to the friendly local gaming store. Big shout out to Days of Nights. And I would go read through stuff that I hadn't read. And I started on the D&D books because at this point I was still kind of like, D&D. But then I started seeing what was at the time the New World of Darkness, or what is now known as the Chronicles of Darkness. And I first picked up the Blue Book, which is the Mortals book, and I read that and was like, oh my god, I got really attached to the God Machine story, which apparently everybody did, and that's why the God Machine Chronicle is now a thing. Thanks the God Machine. Praise the God Machine. But I picked up a couple others. I picked up Second Sight and Asylum and Inferno. And I saw Changeling the Lost. And at this point, I was very into, dark fairy tales because I read Tatterhood and Other Tales at a young age, which is a book of feminist fairy tales. I'm like, okay, this looks cool. And I opened it, and all of a sudden, everything, like my overprotective parents, my terrible roommate, my struggles with feeling like I belonged in the world because, you know, my neurodivergence and my trauma and everything made so much sense because it was all. There's something in anarchist theory, and honestly in a lot of theory, that's called hyperreality,
Mm-hmm.
which is this idea that you are in a space that is not just real, but is so real that your brain cannot process it. It's almost like a sort of magical thinking. And Changeling the Lost captured that hyper reality of being someone who lives with a traumatized brain, this sort of magical thinking that we go through every day, this bargaining, this making contracts with ourselves and others to be able to get through the day, and sort of having this weird sort of magical. And I don't mean magical in a positive sense necessarily. I mostly mean magical in the sense of like a force.
Mm-hmm.
Like this weird sort of otherness pervading you at any given time, and knowing that this otherness comes from a definable or even undefinable traumatic event in your past, and now you have to live with that, and it's part of you, and no matter how much you try, you're never really going to get rid of it. And also there is a part of you that is living the life that you should have had somewhere, and like that could, like in the real world, could be like the face you put on for others and the mask you put on for others.
Yeah.
But in Changeling the Lost is the fetch, which is literally made out of part of your shadow and soul, and is living this seemingly normal life while you're off doing changeling shit, and it hates you and wants you to die because it thinks that if you come for it, you will destroy it. And in a sense, it's right, because a lot of changelings do tend to kill their fetches. You don't have to, but a lot of them do. And so it's very protective of its own existence. And meanwhile, the changeling is like, oh my god, there's this other person living my life. I hate that. And they're very protective of their own existence. So now you have that self-conflict going, and you have this layer of hyper-reality. And something I really hate about misery lit is like stories about child abuse or whatever, is people are so dedicated to being like, and then this horror happened, and then this horror happened, and it went in chronological order, and we're going to go in. That's not the important part. That's never the important part about trauma. The important part about trauma is how you deal with it afterwards.
Yeah.
That's always the most interesting and important part. And Changeling the Lost captures that beautifully. Also, Changeling the Lost got me into therapy after I realized all of this, and I've been in therapy for over a decade now, so that really helped.
Changeling the Lost, I always like, because it's always like this shift of like, in the world of darkness, and like the new world of darkness / Chronicles of Darkness community, everybody talks about like which game line you prefer, because there's a lot of people that are like, I prefer Vampire the Requiem over Vampire the Masquerade. I prefer, nobody prefers Werewolf. The werewolf. I don't know. I've always been. Werewolf is always a contentious point because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed with Werewolf. But Changeling the Lost was one of those where I was like, I came across Changeling the Dreaming and I was like, this is pretty cool, but it like doesn't grab me as much. And then Changeling the Lost was like, that's the it factor for me.
Yep.
That it's grabbed me because it really. It understands more so to a point on a very human, emotional, instinctual level what is fucked up about Faye and what is what is fucked up, and like it is a perfect like analogy for moving past trauma and growth and making yourself whole again, no matter what that might be. Depending on what your character does, whether you do kill your fetch and you take your life back, or if you just let it go and you
or maybe you get to weird 10 and you decide to go back to Arcadia and become one of the true Fae, because that's a viable option.
That's always a viable option. Yeah, exactly. It's wild. There's a lot it could do. Oh, I can't wait for. Oh, I need Derek to play some changeling. I need Derek to play mage. I need Derek. There's so many games I want Derek to play. It's so sick. It's so sick. Speaking of game lines, what are some game lines? Because you've worked on a bunch of different. You worked on Changeling the Lost. You are, like you said, you are the English language line developer for Cult.
English language editor, not line developer.
Not line developer, editor. Still, but like, what are some game lines that you want to work on if this year, or if not this year, next year?
Oh man, this is actually a really hard question, for a really privileged reason, which is I've gotten to work on most of my dream projects. Like, I got to work on Changeling the Lost. I got to write ghouls for Vampire the Requiem. Deviant wasn't a dream project until it was announced, and I got to write on Deviant.
Yeah.
I got to write on Exalted. Like, I got to write on Fading Suns, which I didn't know had a new edition coming out until I was introduced to the line developer. And then he was like, hey, you want to write me 1,000 words of intro and, like, see if you fit? And then I did. And he's like, great. Do you want to write the entire Nobility chapter? And I went, yes, I do. And, like, as oh my god, I've even gotten to write on a Magic the Gathering set. Like, I don't know, man. Like, if they do a new edition of GURPS Reign of Steel, I'd like to write on that. I'm just gonna keep grabbing this prop because I have it. Shit, what else?
It's amazing. While you're thinking of that, it's amazing also because of like how much you've worked on, and you've been able to accumulate and work on all these dream lines that you've wanted to work on at your age too, which is like something that you don't normally see in this industry, because this industry is very much
okay. There's a lot of people who are younger than me who are doing amazing things in the industry, like J Dragon.
J Dragon killing it, yeah. But still,
yeah,
like,
J-Dragon's fucking killing it over here.
We're now getting into that.
I would love, you know what?
Era.
I would love to work on a Possum Creek game.
Okay.
I would love to work on one of Jay's games. I think that would be super fun.
Okay, you know, we have a Kevin Bacon style connection with Jay, because we had a Yazima's Ben Breakfast series that went up showcasing the show, and we had Jay on to play it.
I got to attend Jay's gala.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
It was fun. It was a good time.
I think somebody invited me, and I was like, I'm not a publisher, developer, or anything like that.
It's okay. There were people who weren't.
Yeah.
So.
I was like, I'm just a hype beast in the community, or the
ecosystem. It was a really fun time.
I heard it was great, fantastic. But yeah, no, I would love, Jay, if you ever see this, I would love to have you on this show. Let's talk.
Yeah, come on the show. It's a good time.
But yeah, that's a good. I would love to work on a Possum Creek game as well.
Yeah,
Big
I would work on.
Home.
Also, if anybody ever gets bored of the Terminator license, I will take that.
Yeah, you know, we'll keep our eyes on it. You know, we'll work on some espionage here and see if we can make sure that. I wonder how much
we have to keep one of the writers, Judy Reed, because she worked on a cult book with me, and she's pretty cool. And I've decided that literally everything in that book that is good is her fault.
Perfect. I like that's all the times when I see books like that where I'm very conflicted about them. I'm like, I'm gonna think that's my friend. My friend did that.
Yeah, my friend did the good stuff.
My friend did the good stuff.
What's next?
Perfect. Will deepfake technology ever not be creepy?
No. Next question.
Perfect. Derek,
do you have an arch nemesis? Ooh. And if so, what's that like?
Wow. Okay, so once upon a time, I used to date tech millionaires in the Less Wrong movement. My partners in this chat will have already heard this story. Including Michael Vassar, who is the founder of the fucking scammy-ass medical startup MetaMed.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know about that?
Yes! I've got some tech bro friends from college that fucking, move through circles. Yes.
I also dated Andrew Reddick, who was the lead salesman, and his now wife, Sarah Constantine. And they are all now my arch nemesis. They are garbage. They are trash. Once a year, a journalist calls me and goes, hey, so I've seen your thread on Less Wrong Abuse. Can you tell me about that? And then I'll tell them about that. And then they'll be like, oh, we were hoping you could give us, like, numbers on their projects and, like, inroads to talking to people about taking them down. I'm like, no, I was just fucked up by them at a young age. Like, that's all I got for you. Sorry. But no, I fucking hate the Less Wrong movement. Roko Mujic, who created Roko's Basilisk, is a Nazi, and I have decided that I am reclaiming the Basilisk as my personal standard. Do you know they won't even say my name in public or on social media because they are afraid it will summon me?
Oh my god. You got Beetlejuice powers, Jax.
I got Basilisk powers. I am I am the basilisk. I am the person who will torture you in the future for not bringing me to fruition.
Amazing.
That's that hot shit.
That's
That's
dope.
right.
Have them scared to say your name.
That's
that hot
dope. Oh God, the power you have. Oh
Mhm.
my goodness. Okay, moving right along. What do you want to see more of in the TTRPG industry?
Gays, girls, gays, and days.
Girls, gays,
Very
and days.
important.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing anti-capitalist RPGs. I love seeing anti-fascist RPGs. Something I would like to get more into, and I'm sort of doing with Project Sparrow, is I would like to write anti-fascist takes on fascism in RPGs, because I grew up far right. I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, and literally bringing Ann Coulter books to high school. Like I said, I developed most of my personhood in college.
Oh yeah. I almost
But
went to seminary. I almost became a pastor. There's a timeline. There's a multiverse out there where I'm a pastor.
honestly, I know a lot of like chill queer pastors. You would have made a really good like universalist liberation theology pastor, I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
But like it's so I grew up, far right, pro-life, proto-fascist, basically. And my dad still thinks that Let's Go Brandon is the funniest shit ever, which, bringing it full circle, there's that brick.
There it is.
Hey! But like sort of exploring why people go into that and why it resonates with people is something I really enjoy sort of exploring in my own work right now. Because we have a lot of games about fighting the man, and I think that's awesome. And like, it's awesome that we can agree that that is something we need to struggle against, but I think it's also really valuable to find out what people see in that.
Yeah. Agreed.
And like, something I've seen a lot with the leaked Roe v. Wade decision is people going, "Oh, we're in idiocracy. People are being so stupid." Whatever. It's not stupidity. It's cruelty.
Yeah.
It's deliberate cruelty and
targeted.
maliciousness.
Yeah.
And like Hanlon's razor, which is don't attribute to maliciousness what where stupidity will do.
Yeah.
Does not apply here.
Yeah.
And I think it's really valuable to, like, even people who think of themselves as nice, right? I hate niceness. Like, kindness is great. Being chill with people is great. Being nice and then punishing people.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
We're big fans of kind, not nice here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, one of the most toxic games and one of the most toxic LARPs I was ever in was run by nice white liberals who, in fact, day drank in front of children at a summer camp, among other things. Like, so I'm really big into like kindness in RPGs. I love horror in RPGs. I also really love what's referred to as honobono, which is a Japanese term meaning heartwarming. So games sort of like Wander Home or Golden Sky stories. I would love to see more of that in RPGs, because I think that's something that's missing in a lot of our spaces, and I would love to see more of that. I love seeing the monstrous as lovable, and simultaneously I love seeing the lovable as monstrous. So just playing with genre and theme, and there's a lot of possibilities for what I would like to see in RPGs.
Amazing. Hit us with one, Derek.
All right. Tell us about your time working in mutual aid and lifted circles.
Hell yeah! Okay, so I'm actually part of a Food Not Bombs chapter in my area. And I love it. We have a Saturday meal where we go out every Saturday and feed people in our community for free. It's a super good time. And one of the people who comes regularly to our meals is Steph. And because it's an anarchist thing, I'm not going to use names here. But he is deaf, and he speaks in sign language. So in exchange for us, feeding him, he started teaching me sign language. And then I realized he used to be a chef. And so he would like eat our food and be like, "Oh, I really like this, but maybe this should have a little more salt, or maybe this should have a little little less sugar or whatever. So we've started getting better at serving the community because a member of our community has skills that he can bring, to sort
Yeah.
of, and he's actually started helping us out at different protests that we support. Like, we had this incredible protest last year that still kind of rattles me to my core, because we had, what was it? It was Jacob Blake's dad, Breonna Taylor's aunt, and George Floyd's best friend, who came to speak at our library. And so we set up like a free food thing, and I got to show Breonna Taylor's aunt a poem that I wrote about Breonna Taylor, because part of the reason that I got into doing protest work was because of Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
And that was a huge moment for me. And like, I was over fucking whelmed for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
But like, I got to serve like tacos and apple cider to these people and be able to just kind of give them a moment of kindness and solidarity, and that meant a lot to me.
That's something that a lot of, like, especially when you see on online leftist circles, I know you are very prevalent in leftist Twitter and everything like that, and it's a lot of anger, it's a lot of vitriol. There's a lot of pointed. I know you listen to Behind the Bastards,
Yeah.
as do I. But like the thing that's missing from a lot of these things, and it's really good to see at protests or at rallies or like just organized events, is seeing those moments of kindness and those moments of love and just like levity and just like peace, because everybody thinks that like being leftist or like performing like pushing for social justice and pushing for civil rights and activism and all this stuff, they think it's all anger and like throwing things and signs and all this stuff like that, and that is a part of it. Yeah,
it's a huge part of it. And please don't ever let me say that like I'm not going to stop anyone from throwing things or throwing hands, because that's not my role.
Yeah.
My role is as a medic and support, and
Exactly.
that is what I do because it's what I'm most comfortable doing. And like, yes, being a very online leftist is trying at times.
Yeah.
But like, I have learned so much from both online and offline leftism. Like, I collect leftist zines. It's very funny because people will tell me to read Marx, and I'm like, why would I read Marx? Like, I've read Marx.
Yeah.
But like, I have all of these other inputs from people who have been in the streets and have been part of this movement. And like, one of my favorite pieces of theory right now is called Blessed is the Flame, which is written by the grandchild of a Holocaust survivor. And it is about how to view late stage capitalism through the lens of concentration camp resistance.
Yeah.
And it is fucking incredible. Yeah. I strongly recommend all of you read it. You can find it online pretty easily. The best place to find it is the Anarchist Library, because you can get the whole text for free.
Yeah.
But you can also get it off of AK Press if you want a hard copy. The hard copy is really beautiful. And I'm currently reading an audiobook of it right now, which will be up on my itch once it's finished. I also read an audiobook of Desert, which is climate nihilism, and it's really, really good. And sort of the whole point of that book is, look, man, systems that put climate change in place are not going to stop. And like, there is not going to be a worldwide revolution that is going to save us. So we need to start building resilience and freedom in our communities now, instead of waiting for a savior.
Yeah. That's all the time, like, especially like around here and everything like that, because we have 3 different colleges in our city. You see all the time that people are like, oh, you should read Engels and Marx and Galbraith and all that stuff like that, and it's like that's a good foundation, but you have to read stuff that is in the present moment, that has updated, because
also if you want to read any of the old white dudes, read Kropotkin.
Yeah, like, God, it's like all the time just arguing and being like this. We knew this. This is no.
Yeah.
This is all stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you got to be in the here and now. You have to fucking like focus on what's happening now. And there's knowledge and there's importance in that old stuff, but like you have to adapt because the opposition is adapting every day.
Yeah,
and so you got to be able to adapt with them. Ah, amazing, fantastic. All right, kind of going hand in hand with this, The Purge. Thoughts?
I'm so glad you asked this. So The Purge is one of those series that I got into. I'm so glad Derek likes my enthusiasm because that's all I have to give right now. But The Purge is one of those series that I got into because it was COVID and there wasn't much else to do but like really start pursuing stories that I was interested in or thought I might be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a bunch of The Purge advertisements and whatnot, and sorry if you hear noises, it's my husband in the other room.
Sorry.
Thank you. But The Purge was something that I was interested in because the advertising was kind of like this vague dystopia where like maybe murder was legal, and I was like, okay, but what does that really look like? And then I went and read, as I do before I watch a movie, usually I read the Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those people who likes to spoil myself because I can't spoil myself necessarily because the emotional impact comes in seeing the thing.
Yeah. Agreed.
Man, I wish I was like that. The second I know the thing, I ain't got to experience it at all.
Oh. Yeah. But so I'm reading this and I'm like, wow, this seems to be about race and class tensions and not about murder being legal. So I watched it, I'm like, oh wow, okay. So then I'm like, the second movie is about a cop, and I'm not really interested in that. But then it actually turns out to be a really compelling story because it's really kind of the cop finding his own humanity. And also Brandon Keener is there. Like, Garrus just fucking shoots a guy at 50 yards at one point. That was really fun. I was not expecting Brandon Keener to be there. Which is very funny because Brandon Keener plays the cop's arch nemesis throughout most of the movie, and the reason he's the cop's arch nemesis is because he accidentally killed the cop's son in a drunk driving accident a couple years ago. And he's like, I'm gonna take him out during this purge. Brandon Keener winds up saving the cop from like this terrible purger guy, like shoots the purger guy in the head with a pistol at 50 yards, and I'm like, oh man, it's my boy.
They knew.
They knew. I mean, really just going through the Purge movies and seeing how, especially like with the first Purge, when they very specifically are like, oh yeah, it's on Staten Island and it's with impoverished communities, and mostly what they're doing is like breaking open ATMs and having dance parties in the street, and there's some guy fucking a girl on top of a building.
Yeah.
And like then I think it's at midnight is when they release the white supremacists.
Yep. Yep.
They just released a bunch of white supremacist gangs out of garages.
Yep. That's where they keep
and then
them.
and then they shoot
Alabama.
No.
Yeah. And then they shoot the woman who started the purge because she's like, this isn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a social experiment. And they're like, actually, you're doing eugenics.
Yeah. Yeah. Surprise.
Surprise. But I think my favorite was actually the Purge TV show, season 1 of the Purge TV show, with the actual literal fascist death cult. Led by Fiona DeReef playing good leader Tavis. Fiona DeReef just having the time of her fucking life. I actually have a cosplay of that character, which I'm very happy about.
Yes.
And like she's like, yeah, you're gonna save other people's souls by letting them purge you, and it's terrible. And like there's a whole thing, and there's some really obnoxious pacing choices, and like one very anticlimactic death, which should not have been. But there's like an interesting polyamory thing that unfortunately turns into a love triangle, and there's a weird like QAnon guy who's just rounding up people he has grievances against, which I personally found to be one of the most realistic parts of the Purge.
Well, you know what? I really got some issues with you. I'm gonna get you out of here.
Oh God.
Well, the thing is he rounds them up when they're in danger from other purgers. So he's like, "Oh yeah, you're already vulnerable. Come with me if you want to live." And then it's like, "By the way, fuck you. It's my job to kill you."
Blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and then they have anarchist medics, and I love that.
It's wild.
So that was really cool. Season 2 kind of sucked because they focused so much on this one dude turning into a serial killer, and I'm like, this is not what I come to the Purge series for. I don't want to follow this character. He is not upsetting in a good or fun or or educational way. He's just upsetting, and I don't like him. But then there's that one criminal gang who meets up with, I think she's like a journalist.
Yes.
Or something, and she falls in love with the leader, and then they have that ending scene where she's on the microphone, and he's like keeping out everyone so she has time to get the message out. And I'm a huge sucker for a last stand scene like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, I loved the Purge series. It was fucking incredible. It was a really surprisingly deep analysis of how the capital class views everyone else.
Definitely. I highly recommend. That's one of like my most recent favorite horror series to come out, like franchises. Yeah, because
that's funny.
And that's there's gonna be tons of panels to talk about like what constitutes horror and stuff like that. I know you've been on a bunch of them.
Yeah, but I think the first one is very much a home invasion.
Home invasion, movie. Yes.
Yeah.
And then the second one is kind of a reverse home invasion movie, which I thought was really interesting.
They've done a really good job of like taking a subgenre or taking a trope and turning it on its head, and then using that to push forward their message, which is what you should always try to 100%. Do in your work, in your creative work. And like I haven't watched the Forever Purge yet, the latest.
I haven't watched it either. We'll have to watch it at some point.
Yes.
Because I know you sometimes do movie nights on your stream, and we should totally do that.
Yes, definitely. You
I remember watching Midsommar with you, and I'm really glad I watched it with you, because if I had watched that alone, I would have not had a good time.
There's a funny story before we keep going. I was hanging out with some of the homies, the Carrying Cover Studios homies. We were watching Midsommar together. Leslie was there.
I love that movie.
And it was like Leslie, I think it was Leslie's first time seeing it. And everybody passed out except for her. And I have a thing that if I'm tired and I'm watching a stressful movie, I will pass out at the most stressful parts. It's my body saying like, hey, you don't need to watch this right now. You're tired.
Oh, no.
And so I'll just pass out. So there's just Leslie just watching this stressful ass fucking movie while the rest is
casually passing out around her. That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's so funny. It's so funny. People describe that movie as stressful when that shit is a comedy to me.
Yeah.
It is a tragicomedy in a lot of
ways. Because I'm black, right? Ain't no black people really doing that shit.
Yeah.
No, it's a eugenics cult. The sign you actually see that's in Swedish on the way in, it says stop mass immigration to Harkisland. Like they are an actual white supremacist cult.
Yeah.
And there's a really interesting video done by Acolyte of Horror, which is called How Midsommar Brainwashes You, which is something I really love about the film, because we were talking about exploring fascism from the inside earlier, and this is a prime example. Because to Danny, her only choices are kind of shitty dudes.
Yeah.
Or cult that experiences everything with her, but are also horrifically racist. So,
and it's going to first force her to commit suicide at 72.
Oof. Before we get another Derek question here, I also want to shout out Fiona Dereef. You should shout out Fiona Dereef, making her dad proud out here in these Acton streets, doing a great job. If you have not seen
was the best thing about The Stand miniseries. The Stand
Agreed.
miniseries was fucking garbage.
Garbage.
So bad. Like,
It's so
the
bad.
94 series was great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it you know, it kind of, it missed a couple of characters, but that was fine.
Yeah, and it
Like,
was of its time, but of the time, it
it
was
hit
great.
all the, it hit all the major themes. It
Mhm.
was perfect. This series was
It was
trash.
trash, but she was fucking fantastic. She's
She was
fantastic in
amazing.
everything. Check out Dirk Gently's holistic detective agency. She plays a very unhinged, manic character that's great. That just adds a lot of like, just like when things seem to be going right, just randomly she'll pop up and just like things go off the rails. It's great.
Fiona DeReef playing unhinged femininity is like
Mhm.
my sexuality in a lot of ways.
Also, most recently, I don't spoiler alert for the Chucky series. If you have not watched the Chucky series,
Oh,
yet.
I know.
But they casted Fiona DeReef to play the character that her dad played in the
Is
original
really
movie.
cute. Oh, did
Ooh.
they?
Yeah, they
Ooh,
did. They
that is
did
wild.
like gender bent, but like not even that. It's just like she plays him. She just plays him, and it's
That's so
great. And she does a great job. Also, shout out Brad Dourif, Deadwood, amazing. One of the best parts of Deadwood. Also, Chucky, like
Also, Wormtongue.
also Wormtongue, fucking amazing. Yes, great. All right, hit us with another question here, Derek.
All right. Any tips for people looking to get started in TTRPG or LARP design?
Yes. Read a lot of games. Play a lot of games. Really sort of get a feel for what you like and what you don't like. Get an itch.io account. Just get it now. You can always put stuff on it later.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to immediately put something on your itch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, join a game jam on itch. That's a great way to get started. Don't be afraid to put out doc form games. Doc form games are just games that are laid out in Google Docs or Word. Like, don't be afraid to put out zine games. Don't be afraid to put out doc form games. They're all awesome. Don't try to make the next D&D. Don't do that. We talked about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, steal from all your favorite franchises.
Mm-hmm.
Just file the serial numbers off.
Mm-hmm. Make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
Make it better.
If you want to start freelancing, like I did, working on lines and stuff, see if the company you want to work for has a writer call. Usually they will post it on their website, on Twitter, etc. I can tell you for a fact that Wes responded to a writer call that I posted for Cult, and his work will be appearing in a Cult Divinity Lost book, which is very exciting.
It was the most stressful experience of my life, and I'm glad I did it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
But you got paid on time, and that's
I did. That's the important thing. Oh my god.
Yep.
I was shocked from the stories that I've heard.
We're gonna be in dev edits for like it's probably until the end of the summer.
Yeah.
So, because I have to edit the whole book now. But look for writer calls. Follow the submission guidelines exactly. I don't care if you have a 10,000 word idea that is like the next, I don't know, the next Shirley Jackson short story or the next Ursula K. Le Guin short story. If they ask for, let's use Onyx Path guidelines, if they ask for 500 words of mechanics and 500 words of flavor text, give them that, give or take about 10 words. They want to see if you can follow directions and be creative within the guidelines.
Because that's how you're going to be writing. You're going to
Yes.
be writing by guidelines. I learned. You're going to be writing by guidelines. And you know what? Do it. Do it. Oh, God, it was that was a great experience.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I can't wait for that book.
I'm really excited for that book too.
Yeah, I'll also get to be in a book with another person that I really respect that we talked about earlier. I don't know how much I can say about it because I'm on an NDA, but I get to be in the credits with another person that I really respect.
Hell yeah.
A bunch of people that I get to respect.
I gotta buy it now. I gotta buy it.
You got it.
Hell yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we are coming close to the end of this interview. And Derek has a very important question that we ask all of our guests. And after that, we're going to do a rapid fire round where you are
Hell
going
yeah.
to answer first thing off the top of your head.
Awesome.
And
I'm good at that. I have ADHD.
Perfect. So, Derek, won't you go ahead and hit Jax with this very important question?
All right. So this last question is on like some legacy type beat. All right. So what do you want to come from your time on Earth?
What do you want to come from? What?
Your time on Earth. Like your time here existing.
Out. I would really like to make some art that people enjoy, even after I'm not there to see it.
That's a good one.
Great answer. All right, Jax. Jacqueline Bryk professionally, Jax to her friends. We have gotten to know you so very well. Your taste, the things that you have done, the things that you enjoy, all
My
these
terrible
great things.
campy taste.
Adore it. For the past, what is probably our longest interview episode, but you know what? That is perfect because there was a lot to say. There was a lot of ground to cover. We have a rapid fire round here where we are going to ask you a bunch of questions and you are going to have to answer them off the top of your dome as fast as possible. And I am going
I'm no Nancy Reagan, but we can do this.
Well, oh God, I'm glad you're not a fucking Nancy Reagan. I'm so glad. Oh God, I'm so glad. If there's any... Oh, God. Fucking that broke me. Whew. All right, cool. Derek's going to be kicking us off, but we're going to be hitting it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. What social stigma does society need to get over?
Ableism.
Paper or plastic?
Paper.
Favorite lipstick shade?
Psycho by Urban Decay.
Roland or the Man in Black?
The Man in Black.
Cowboys or Knights?
Knights.
What's the most expensive thing you've ever broken?
I've never broken a bone, so there's that.
All right. Top 3 goth movies.
Oh, top 3 goth movies. 1992, Bram Stoker's Dracula. First one. Second one, Hellraiser. Third one, Hellraiser 2.
Excellent. Best road trip song?
Radar Love by Golden Earring.
Excellent choice. Love Golden Earring, Radar Love, and excellent answers on rapid fire round. It was a very quick one. You did it great. There's not a lot of stumbling at all. Fantastic. I think at the end of this season,
you said Roland and Man in Black, and I was like, oh wait, hold on. Randall Flagg.
Yeah, there you go. Excellent. Also, yes, shout out Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. I think is like peak goth.
Peak romantic goth. Yeah.
Gothic. Romantic horror movie.
Romantic goth, yeah.
Romantic
also,
goth.
shout out Jamie Sheridan for being the best Randall Flagg there has ever been. He was the 94 Randall Flagg.
Shout out Jamie Sheridan. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jax, for joining us this evening. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your answers.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yes, we're going to definitely have you back on here to just completely devour that Terminator RPG book. And we'll probably have you on for another what zany ideas for content we come up with.
As you know, I will talk your ear off if you let me, so I'm happy to be here.
Exactamundo. So, why don't you go ahead and tell the people at home where they can find you, all the stuff that you have coming out soon, things that they need to keep their eye out for, and then we'll go ahead and say good night.
Well, you can find me in Delaware. That is, if you can find Delaware. But you can find all of my stuff at linktree.com/rufflejacks. I am on most social media as Rufflejacks. My personal website is JacquelineBryk.design. I just updated it, and this interview, once it goes up on YouTube or VOD or whatever, will also be added to that site, so that's very exciting. You can find me in many fine TTRPG books, including Changeling the Lost, Deviant the Renegade, After the War, Cult Divinity Lost, Exalted 3rd Edition, and Fading Suns Pax Alexius. You can find me on Itch.io as Rufflejacks. You can find Project Sparrow at the link that I posted earlier. What other places can you find me? You cannot find me at the bar Friday nights because we're still in a pandemic, so don't even try. But yeah, I am online most places, and I am very chatty.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I had an excellent time. Derek, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you as well?
Everywhere that you can think to type the phasing octopus in, that's where you'll find me. Except for Twitter, it's just phasing octopus.
Perfect. I also dropped a link there where you can find Derek's music at Bandcamp and Spotify, and you can also follow his own personal Twitch where he plays games and makes music. Been on that Elden Ring jam, so go ahead and check that out as well.
So I have never played an Elden Ring, but I love the phrase "maidenless behavior" to describe some absolutely maidenless behavior. You will note that my Twitter nickname is currently Jax Romana, 100% maidenless behavior. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, if you don't want to be maidenless and commit maidenless behavior, you don't want to take an L plus ratio plus you fell off or anything like that, you can follow me on Twitter at ThirstTrapMoth. That is my personal Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at ComfortCarrion. You can also stay tuned if you want to catch another stream. Tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, Carrying Comfort News is coming with some big news stories. A lot has happened in the past week, and we are going to be talking about a lot of interesting stuff. I am trying to pad for time so I can see what topics we're going to be covering. We're going to be covering Hikaru Shida dropping out of the Owen Cup tournament. Die the RPG has just launched on Kickstarter. Dead Space, the reboot, has been given a date, and Master Chief just had sex on TV.
I'm so proud of him.
I know, finally, he finally got it. But yeah, all that stuff and more tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern for Carrying Comfort News. You can also catch Comfort Sickle on Tuesdays with Leslie. She is starting her Wolf Among Us playthrough, a very fun game, and that'll get you prepared for Fables Once and Future, a game that's using urban shadows that is set in the Fables universe that is coming this July. I don't have an exact date on it, but it's coming this July. It's coming. We got character art that's being worked on. So if you want to see some previews of character art when they get ready, hop in our Patreon. We've also completely figured out how to reshuffle and restructure our Patreon to make it more efficient for us and make it more beneficial for you. So if you want to support us directly, go ahead and head over to Patreon. Will News have a fun game? We might have a fun game. You might just have to tune in to see. I don't know. We might have a fun game. I've been thinking of some stuff. I don't know. That's a spoiler. And then Good Game Well Played. We're going to be figuring out what we're doing on Good Game Well Played.
So when are we going to play the Terminator RPG?
When are we going to play the Terminator RPG? We might just find a different game to play Terminator. Is exactly what's going to happen. And then Friday, we have our fucking finale of Kingdom Hearts: The Interstitial War. I think Nick would kick me in the head if I did not say it, the longest running TTRPG actual play show on Carrying Comfort Studios. Also has had the most guests of any series that we've had, at a whopping 31 different guests that we've had playing different people from different media. So go ahead and check that out. And you can check out the full series and all of our other content on YouTube.
You did promise to let me play Randall Flagg in that game, and it never happened.
It never happened. I'm going to put that fully on Nick. Nick handles all that. That's the thing. I'm executive producer Jerry Bruckheimer, but Nick is the creator. Nick is the Guillermo del Toro of that, as he likes to.
I'm shocked you're not executive producer Dick Wolf.
Exactly. Yeah. I wish, but I don't like to deal with cop shit, and that's why I'm not Dick Wolf.
That's true.
And then also next Saturday, we're steamrolling. We got 3 episodes of Late Night Comfort left in this season, and then we're going to be taking a little bit of a break with playing some video games or doing some other stuff. So go ahead and tune in, because next week I have a very close personal friend of mine. You know him, you love him. He is the one, the only Moist Heat himself, Prince Amir, also known as @Dimples and Dice on the internet. He runs Philly by Night on his sister station, Rolling D's 20s, as well as he's part of the Thonic Kids. He played Theseus in Hades High School. He has played a child of Hades in Camp Half-Blood. He is running a bunch of D&D. He's partnered with Roll20, all this good stuff. And we're going to be talking to him about his experience streaming TTRPGs on the internet, things that you need to look out for when you are going to get the perfect Philly cheesesteak in Philadelphia, and what and where can you find those Nike Vandals that Kyle Reese grabbed in Terminator 1. All that and more next week, 9 p.m. Eastern for Late Night Comfort. And then it's just cyclical because time is a flat circle. I think Matthew McConaughey said that one time.
Time is a fractal spiral and nothing is real.
There we go. There we go. Straight from the woman herself, telling you straight up, the basilisk herself. Perfect. Well, that is all for us. I'm going to go ahead and check my Twitch because, you know what, we got a decent amount of folks that are just hanging out after this interview. So we're going to go ahead and raid into somebody that's streaming right now.
Hell yeah.
We're going to go. It's always good to go share the love, especially when you got some love to share. And we are going to go check out, you know what? Blackwater D&D is playing. They're starting their new series, The Good Ship Blackwater. They're talking about pirate stuff. So we're going to go ahead and raid over to them. Go ahead and show them some love. You don't have to stick around if you don't want to, but I know that they always appreciate new viewers and new followers. So go ahead and check them out. I just got to make sure that I get all the... There we go. I got it. Capitalization, perfect, everything like that. And we are going to say goodnight for now, but we will see you tomorrow. We will see you in our scheduled time slots. Drive home safe. Don't drive drunk, and do not forget that comfort comes soon. Bye, y'all.